Good afternoon. We will begin a new session about the regional synthesis. But first of all, I just want to say a word. I just want to kindly remind you that if you cannot speak any other language than your own language, please speak your own language instead of not speaking. But if you can speak even a little bit, even bad English, please speak English, because it is the language that more or less everybody can understand, at least a bit. Thank you very much. So we will begin with a subsession about the Hispanic and the Mauritanian Amphora, with a very collective presentation made by Dario Bernal, Horacio González Cesteros, Mohamed Kbiri Alaoui, Rui Moraes, Ramon Rarega, Antonio Manuel Saez, Inés Vaz Pinto, et avec, and with as discussants, Carlos Fabiao, Enrique Garcia Vargas, and Albert Ribera.
So, good afternoon. I'm going to speak in English, even if my English is not good. And I am the person who is going to present the presentation today. Let's go to the Iberian Peninsula. We know from ancient times a big production of amphora in the whole Iberian Peninsula and also in near places as the north part of today Morocco or in Ibiza. I have to say in this presentation we are only going to speak about the main production areas as northeast Spain, today Catalonia, as the region of Cádiz and the coastal Bética and North Morocco, also the Guadalquivir Valley and part of Lusitania. Here you have a chart with all the amphora that we recognize as produced in ancient Iberian Peninsula. As you can see, there are a huge amount, but for 80% of this amphora, we don't have any evidence of the content. Not analysis have been done, and neither tituli picti have been found. Let's go with the first main area of the Iberian Peninsula. I'm going to speak in clockwise way, and then I'm going to start with today Catalonia. In this rich region in Antiquity, we know a lot of production places where wine, probably wine and olive oil, were produced. These presses in this picture here contrast also with the places we have found where amphora were produced, with amphora kiln sites. They are normally situated in the central region of Catalonia, around today Barcelona, but also in the so-called Ager Tarraconensis, and in other parts as the Ebro Valley or the Fluvia area near Emporia. We know the production of amphora and also of commodities made for amphora as wine in this region from the archaic period. Nevertheless, we have a big amount of amphora from Iberian types that say us that there was not only packaged wine in this amphora, but also other kind of commodities. Beer or also grain had been suggested. And we don't have only amphora for this kind of commodities. We have found also several of these clay barrels or clay goat skins that we suppose it was only used for package and storage of this beer or maybe other commodities, but we know it was also a transit of these so-called barrels. If we go to the Republican period, we find in the Catalonia a production of several types of amphora. The first ones are made in an Italian Italic way, like the Dressel one or the Greco-Italics. Also, a small production of Lambolia too have been documented. And at the end of the Republican period, we find already some types that are so-called ovoid amphora that we suppose could be used for wine. But nevertheless, we have again no evidence of the content they bear. For the imperial times, the situation is a little bit better because from the last quarter of the first century BC to the beginning of the second century AD, we know several writing sources that talks about the Tarraconensis wine or of different types of Tarraconensis wine. For example, the wine of Saguntum in North Valencia, and also the Lauronensis wine that we have also found in Tituli Picti. And for the Dressel 224, as equally as the Dressel 224 from Italy, we suppose they were used as wine containers. But in this period, we find also other minoritary types produced in the region, like the Dressel 711 and also Dressel 20, that seems to be not used for wine, but for fish sauce or fish products, and also for oil. In the case of the Dressel 20, Dr. Piero Berni studied it. They have been found in different regions, but these ones came from the region of Barcelona, and as you can see, they are quite clear copies of the Vatican models. Let's go to the next area of Spain. It is the Guadalquivir Valley, a very rich region situated in the valley of the Guadalquivir and also some other rivers like Genil or Guadoz, where a huge olive oil production took place in ancient times. But we already know it was not only olive oil what was produced in this huge region. From pre-Roman times, we know a group of amphora called Pellicer, mostly the types B, C, and D, and several products have been suggested. Some analyses have been done in the last years. We are waiting for results, but it looks like a polyvalent amphora where olive oil but also wine were packaged. This, we have also indirectly evidence of the content of this amphora, and seems to be, as I have already said, for olive oil, but also for wine. In the lower part of the Guadalquivir, near the end of the river, we find also another kind of amphora, the so-called Tiñosa type, that after some interpretations should be used for olive oil. We have indirect proofs of it in Cerro Naranja, for example. It is in Jerez de la Frontera, not so far away from here. They found also remains of olive oil traces. If we go to the end of the Republican, we have in the Guadalquivir Valley more or less the same problem we found in Catalonia. It is, in one side, we have the copies of the Italian models, like Dressel 1 and Lamboglia 2, but or copies of Western Punic amphora, like this T7433, but we have also a new repertoire of ovoid amphoras, even if for the italic copies or the italic imitations, we can suggest content in the same as the models they took. For example, the Dressel 1 in Guadalquivir Valley could be used for wine containers. For the ovoid forms, it is no evidence of their content, and it's an open question for the future. I hope in the next years we are going to approach to a better understanding of it. In this chart you can find, we put all the Guadalquivir amphora production and more or less what we think today that they are their contents. We know in the Guadalquivir took place a wine amphora production, for sure the olive oil amphora, but also fish products or salted products. Could be also the kind of salted products, not only fish. And we find also, yesterday we talked about the Halten 17 and the previous Ovoid 4, that, as we are going to discuss later, they were used for more than one product and looks like the frutum and olives. Let's talk just of two types of amphora from the Guadalquivir. The first one are the well-known Dressel 20, no? The olive oil containers, Dressel 20 and Dressel 23. We have for sure the evidence of their content in Monte Testaccio. No? Also the epigraphic evidence of the exportation of olive oil in Roman times is huge, and we should not have any doubt about the content of this Dressel 20. But we have also some new remains, some new evidence, sorry, like for example this Dressel 20 from the Flavian period, beginning Antoninian period, found in Alicante, that was closed by a stopper and contains still a kind of olive oil soup that tell us directly about the content of this kind of amphora. For the Dressel 23, even if we think the most important content was olive oil, we have to admit that this kind of amphora also contain another product. And it is also a product linked with olive oil. It is the olives, no? In the Seal 15 of Rome, they have already published some tituli picti that say about different types of olives. But in a recent discovery, not yet published from Catalonia, they found in a shipwreck a Dressel 23 with a new inscription that tell us that this kind of olive was something special, oleum dulce. It was not the normal one that they packed in the Dressel 20 and sent to Rome or to the limes. And then we have to think that the Dressel 23, maybe they were used sometimes in a different way than the Dressel 20 date. And here you have the already known Halter 70. We talked about it yesterday. Well, for the Halter 70, we have normally, it is curious because we have a big controversy on this amphora, but we have a lot of tituli picti. And we are talking about this amphora since 100 years, and we find continuously new tituli picti. Most of them, they told that the frutum and olives preserve it in the frutum. Some new analysis made by Nicolas Garnier in some amphoras found in the famous shipwreck of Port Vendré II confirms this vision that Halten 70 was used to contain olives preserved in the frutum. But some other tituli picti tell us that maybe the frutum was not the only content made to preserve the olives, but also another kind of liquid product, in this case the muria. These pictures came from Zaragoza. It was an amphora found some years ago there, and it bears a tituli picti that is not a titus pictus that it's not clear. No, it's MU. They interpreted it as mulsum. Maybe it's not mulsum, but muria, because Ulrike Emig found some years ago also in Mainz a titulus where it was writing mur. It is more clear than this other one, and she interpreted it like muria, that was put it there to preserve olives, in this case tritia, broken olives, or some similar product. Let's go to the next region in Spain. It is the coastal area, the so-called Circle of the Strait. My colleague Dario Bernal spoke already about a little bit of this zone. The first thing I have to say is that we don't have, in this huge area, we don't have to make the distinction, the division between north and south. It is better to make it between west, is the Atlantic coast, and east, the Mediterranean coast, because in the one side, there are different kind of fishes that in the other side. That means that probably the fish products were different. This is a really reputed area for the fish products. We have found a lot of fish factories all along the coast. And we know there are several references in the classical authors about the fish products from Cádiz, from Gades, from the classical times till the Byzantine period. This example is the amphoras from the 5th century BC, found in Corinth with fish remains. Then we don't have any doubt till Corinth arrived some of these amphoras produced in the Gibraltar area with fish products, even in such an early period as the 5th century BC. But we have also to ask us, mainly during the Hellenistic period, if fish products were the only product packed in this amphora, or in the amphora production of this area. As you can see in this picture, we have several types of different amphora forms produced in the region. And even if some of them, for some of them, we have epigraphic or iconographic references to the product, in this case, as you can see in this stamp, fish products, or in these coins, also with tunfish, looks like fish products. Probably not all of them were used for the same kind of products. And we can also make us a new question is, in this huge area where several types of amphora were produced, what's happened? One of these amphora produced maybe in the one workshop in Cádiz carried a product in fish, and other ones produced some kilometers ago in other quayside. They have another content, or the cultural tradition makes that different kinds of amphora were produced in each small region. This is an open question also for the future. If we go to the late Republican period, we find this kind of amphora in Punic tradition, this T7433, in which we find tituli picti that mentions wine as product. These examples came from also from the region around Jerez, not so far away from Cádiz, and we know for the classical sources is a reputed area for the wine production. Probably the uncle of Columella had their estates in this area. But discoveries in Baelo Claudia, also of the team of Professor Bernal, show us that they were also used for fish products. Then we have to think that this kind of amphora was used for more than one content. Something that looks like normal, at least in the Iberian Peninsula, for pre-Roman times. On the other side, we have also the imitations of Italic forms, this area, mainly the Greco-Italic and the Dressel one, that after the remains found in the interior of some amphoras, in Baelo Claudia too, and in other places, and the epigraphic evidence, we have to admit a fish product, or at least a salted product that could be other kind of animals, not only fish. If we go to the end of the Republican period, the transitional period to the to imperial times, we have again the same product in Guadalquivir Valley. We don't have any evidence for this so-called ovoid amphora, even for some Dressel 1C. We don't have tituli picti, or these tituli picti are not clear about the content, and we don't find any remain. But several years ago, here in La Caleta, that's some 100 meters from this university, It was found so-called Dressel 10, but it was really an ovoid form with some grain, some wine remains in the interior. Then we have to think that probably this ovoid amphora, they were used not only for one purpose, but for more than one, probably several of them. If we continue with the classical imperial forms of the Betica, the Betical coast, then we have to admit that the main use of these forms was to carry or to package fish products. That is quite clear if we talk about, if we see the Tituli Picti found there. But even in the Tituli Picti, sometimes we find strange things, no? Like mentions to some contents that we don't really know what it is, like lymphatum or even lacatum. And maybe some of these products were mixed products. It means they were made with fish sauces and wine or other kind of products. And we have also some Tituli Picti that mentions that the content of some of these amphora, mainly the Beltran 2B series, was wine. Then it looks clear that there was not a link, a directly link between amphora and content. But nevertheless, I think we can speak about a main content for one amphora type. From the 3rd century AD or the late 2nd century AD, the visibility of the Betican wine is bigger than before because we find some productions, some amphora types productions in the coast that clearly say us or suggest a wine product, like copies of Gauloise 4 and the Beltran 68 or similar forms. In the late Roman period, in late Antiquity, we have other kind of problems. This normally, for well-known amphora like K16 or K19, we know or we suggest a fish product. For the African imitations, we have to think also in other kinds of problems, or we have to think about the same problems they have in Africa. And also in the coast, in this area, mainly in the 5th and 6th century, in the Malaga region, they produced Dressel 23. Then we have to think at that moment, this region export also olive oil, or as we have seen before, similar products, no? Kind of different olive oil or olives. The Mauritania Tingitana, we are going to be quick in this area, presents the similar problems than the Betical coastal area. It is, we have found remains of presses, but we have found also several fish fabrics. For the amphora types, they are again the same forms that we find in South Spain, and probably the same products. But in Mauritania Tingitana, we find a new problem in some Tituli Picti that mentions a production or that mentions the city of Lixus. Then they go always with cordula, a kind of young tunfish, and we have here a new problem to interpret this leaks. Probably later with the communication of Madame Le Benemer, we are going to talk about the production in Lyon, and also this kind of Tituli Picti, where a name of a place is called for the fish sauces. Then we have to think maybe it is a production of Lixus, but maybe it was also a RACIIC. Then it's also an open question that let's see if we can answer in the future. And the last Hispanic region is the Lusitania. We have, in Lusitania, we have found a lot of kiln sites again, mainly in the coastal area, but also inland. For example, Mr. Fabiao spoke yesterday about the Halten 70 produced in near the capital of the region, of the province, in Augusta Emerita. But on the coast, we find also a big amount of fish factories. The Lusitanian amphora production started a little bit later than in other regions, and it is already a production linked with the Betica, no? The first ovoid amphora from Lusitania, and the Dressel 711 that were produced there, also Halter 17. But we have, for Imperial and late antiquity, a good amphora production, a good repertoire from this region. Normally, most of the types of Lusitania, they are, or we think they are linked with fish products. But we have two of them, the Lusitania 3 and the Lusitania 9, that we can also suggest maybe a wine production, even if we don't have directly evidence. In the case of Lusitania 3, maybe the form, it's really linked with the Gauloise 4, say as a wine production, a wine product. Some analyses have been done in Lusitanian amphora, in different kinds of Lusitania amphora, like ovoid forms or Dressel 711 and Dressel 14. And also recently, some analyses have been done in Dolia in Algarve, where they have found remains of big sharks and of different kinds of fish products. Also in Setúbal, near Troya, near one of the big fish factories of Lusitania, they have found some, I think, two Dressel 14 with remains of sardines. Then the main production of this region is, without any doubt, fish products. Here you can see the Tituli picti that have been found in Dressel 14 and Almagro 50. And we have also some evidence, directly evidence of remains inside some of these amphora. And just to finish, I think we have to make some remarks for the future. This is the Tarraconensis. We have problems with the Iberian amphora. We have to define still the most important content. Also the Dressel 711, even if we think the main product was fish products. And we have a big problem that I didn't say before with the late antique productions, because we don't really determine this production that for sure exists in the region. In the Guadalquivir Valley, again, this problem with the pre-Roman amphora, but also with the local production of Dressel 711, what it contains. It was fish products from the river. It was from lagoon areas at the end of the river. It was meat conserves. We have still a big problem with the Halter 17, as you have seen yesterday. And we can say the Dressel 23 sometimes contain different products than olive oil. If we go to Lusitania, what's happened with the Lusitanian wine amphora are the Lusitanian 3 wine amphora. What happened also with the early Halten 17, yesterday Professor Fabiao suggests that they have the olives from Emerita Augusta. And we have still a problem in Algarve region because it is the knowledge we have of this region is not similar to other parts of Lusitania. And if we go to the vertical coast, we can say that, as you have seen, the problems with the Dressel 711 and other kind of amphora, if they were always used for fish or not, and what's happened with the Halten 70 production on the coast, and also with some late antiquity production, as the Dressel 23 from Malaga and other places. And in that which concerns the Tingitana, let's see how they exported these products and the problem you have already seen in the Tituli picti. And as general suggestion or perspective, we have to say that we have to go further in the analysis of the amphora remains, and it should be useful to create a kind of database to put of different remains of different data. Especially it will be good for the Guadalquivir Valley production and for the Hispania tarraconensis, but for the whole Iberian Peninsula. But we don't have to forget the epigraphic and literary sources, and we have a lot of them for the Hispanic production. And we have also to understand and to quantify the number of Hispanic amphora in their main markets. It is in the Italian peninsula and also in the north. So, thank you very much.
Thank you to all of you for this very clear presentation and the very interesting differences you made concerning the regions and the chronology of the Hispanic. Sorry. So, well, to the basis.
Well, I will begin. First thing, I must apologize because my very, very bad English, but well, it's the. Then I want to do some remarks of the intervention. The first is that Catalonia is not northwest, it's northeast in Spain.
For sure. You are right.
Northwest is Galicia, no? Well, about Iberian or Iberic amphora, I can say something. We know some analysis about Iberian amphora in Catalonia, and this analysis speak about beer, no wine. It's very curious, very interesting, but the form of the Iberian amphora is not very useful to transport. Maybe it was normal to think about beer, but not to transport beers, not to storage or to do beer. But in the other hand, in the inner Valencia, in Requena area, in the 5th century BC, now is an interesting site, La Calerilla, where the Iberian produced wine in the 5th century BC. Around this area, we know some site of production of Iberian amphora. Maybe the Iberian amphora was an amphora not to transport, but to storage, to prepare the product. In fact, in the Iberian sites, we found a big concentration about Iberian amphora in the big department. So we can think about storage, no transport, and so we can think about no specialized for to special product. Lauronensis wine is in Catalonia, no in Valencia.
No, I say Sagunto was in Valencia. And
no, it's a old discussion.
We know where is the Lauronensis region.
No,
for sure it's central Catalonia, yeah.
There are two Lauro towns, one is in Valencia, other is in Catalonia, but it seems the Lauro wine and the Lauro mint of the coin is in central Catalonia, near Granollers. Well, I think in the map of the production area, maybe we can add inner Spain, I think about Segobriga, the recent find of the Dressel 2-4 on the Oberaden 74, more or less Oberaden 74 production, and with these finds maybe we can open a new investigation about the amphora of the inner Spain. So in this topic we are in the beginning, I think. So to finish, I think we can try to study, to do global study about landscape infrastructure of the towns. In the last time in urban archaeology in Valencia town, we have found Boinellar near the sea. So the landscape was very different. And so maybe can demonstrate that a lot of the production of the Dressel 2-4 around Valencia to around Saguntum to around Dianium was because the Boinellar was expanded near the sea. In this moment, is in Dianium now is like this, but Valencia, Saguntum, and the littoral part, the Boinellar is 50 kilometers inner in this moment. But the archaeological remains can demonstrate that in the Roman period was very different, and the grapes grow near the sea. All this town where the archaeological remains of these towns are very important because the harbor. We know the harbor of Saguntum, the fluvial harbor of Valencia, the port of Dianium. So it seemed in this region the economy was very specialized in the exportation of the wine. The problem is we know very bad where this wine gone. In the south, the Valencia is different. We know a lot of fisheries, but we don't know production amphora related with these fisheries. So, more or less, I finished it.
I will start with the last question, and then my colleagues probably they are going to answer you. That which remains Valencia, or the central Tarraconensis area. We decide at the end not to talk about it, because if not, it's going to be huge. It is the same for the central Spain, even if we have to be a little bit cautious with this Oberaden 74. And we start again with the same problematic: what is amphora, what is jar, no? Because they are not too much and they are not too big. But in any case, with the region of Sagunto and Valencia, for sure is a good production area from several commodities. But we decide at the end not to put it here because of the time. I'm sorry, but it was like this. And I suppose maybe Antonio Said wants to answer you for the Iberian amphora. Yeah.
Just about the Iberian amphora and the maritime side.
Dario.
We have here at CALC a lot of Iberian amphora from Alicante, Valencia, and all the eastern coast from the Iberian Peninsula. So we have to, at least from mid-5th century BC onwards, so they are traveling. And also we can bring here the example of Binisafuyer Grec, which is dated, if I'm not wrong, in late 5th or early 4th century, and was carrying amphora from Ibiza and mainly from Iberian sides of the eastern side of the Iberian Peninsula, and some of them, I think, they have inside Vitis vinifera. So, and also in the Requena Utiel, latest research from Pérez Jordá and other colleagues from Kerin area and other sites like Casillas del Cura, and so there are many traces of wine production and wine trade in those Iberian amphorae, I think, and that they are traveling all around. It's the same case in Tour de Tania, I think, that they have been produced in the Guadalquivir Valley and the inner side of Cádiz province, but they were traveling abroad in main maritime networks with the Gaditsan productions. We have found Tour de Tania amphora, for example, in northern Morocco, in southern Algarve, and many other places. So, well, maybe some of the productions were used for storage or for the production of beer in the household context, but another part of the production was traveling inside the main networks.
The problem of the Benissafoulier shipwreck is the Iberian amphora, and maybe they don't Iberian amphora. Maybe. It's a question when we speak about transport in Iberian amphora, Benissafoulier is always a problem because the supposed Iberian amphoras, they are very rare. And I know in the Iberian site in Valencia area, some like maybe Arpunic, no Iberian. Is a question now? Is in a question.
I just would like to add, since the main theme of this interactive congress is contents, just like to add to the presentation of my colleague that we already have chromatographical results, and we published about Altern 70 and Urseus type amphora from Bioetica, that the Altern 70 it was the Fruton, and Urseus type amphora it was sweet wine, a kind of mulson, I don't know, but we already have these results.
So, Enrique,
I forgot to say also that, we have ADN that we publish very soon on remains from Algarve, fish remains, and we identify already seven species of fish, which one it's a big shark. Yes.
Well, and the Vatican discussant. Congratulations for your very synthetic and very, very clear presentation about a complex and huge area that must have been a hard effort. In Vatican, the panorama of amphora contents is relatively well established, with some problems, of course, about void amphorae and the eternal discussion about Heart 17 that we shouldn't continue today. I have two information and a little remark. The information are about Pellicer D and Halter 70. The Pellicer D is to say that we have already the results of the chemical analysis of this type from the ancient city of Ilipa Magna, in Alcalá del Río, which these Pellicer D are pre-Roman amphora. The analysis points in them to vegetal fats, no? Perhaps, but only perhaps, olive oil. In this case, if we have olive oil, it could be a precedent of ovoid amphora and overaden 83 amphora types of Roman times. No? The second information is about Halter 70. We have excavated some kilns, suburban kilns in the ancient city of Carmo, the actual Carmona. with ovoid 4, and with these kilns produced halter 17, ovoid amphorae, and 2 Pellicer pre-Roman amphorae that continued to be produced into late Republican times. The question is that Carmona is approximately 15 kilometers away from the Guadalquivir. It's an interior production, we can say. It's a mixed production, partially Romanized, with a lot of plain wares from Iberian, Turdetanian, in fact, types, Turdetanian amphorae, and a little production of Romanized types like ovoids and halter 17. And the little remark is concerning the Pune amphora type T433, the ancient Mania C2b. We have a Titulus pictus, as you have shown, a Titulus pictus from Jerez Museum, that talk about vinum dulce, probably. It's only a Titulus pictus, I know, but that points again to the discussion about the possibility of bivalent types. There's no difference typologically between this amphora for wine and the amphora 7433 with the rest of fish products. No? So we have again this recurrent problem of the bivalent types, or the types with a main content and a secondary content. I know. And so.
Any comments? André?
Sorry, Professor, I don't hear you.
One general comment and 2 punctual. Horatio very easily and very often jumped to the conclusion that amphora types were multi-purpose. That's possible. But if we are going to build up a research program, and as said Moses Finlay, every research effort has to be some or against some view. We have to choose what's our basic assumption. If we think that we should start from the theory, one type, one content, our task will be to examine and criticize every contradiction and see if the theory resists. If we think it's wrong, it's not worthwhile being discussed, our task will be to list, as did Horatio, every type with several, which are multi-purpose, which have several contents, and to have a long list of types and a longer list of contents. That's for tomorrow. Now, the very punctual remarks is halter 70. I just spoke with Don Miguel and Ulrike. Don Miguel, as I do, confirms his readings of Mulsum in Zaragoza and Celsa. And Ulrike tells me that the Muria Vetus inscription in Mainz, which seemed to be the most reliable one, is extremely doubtful. So, in my opinion, exit the Muria tokens for halter 70. And the second is that 2 or 3 times I heard today still speaking of lacatum. But lacatum does not exist. The expansion for lacat was even worse than Dressel's expansion for cheer. It was based on a book by Svenning, published in the early 90s, and which had never been discussed and reread, and which was itself based on very doubtful late antiquity readings of exceptional texts. So lacatum has David Jaoui has shown, because he has a very clear inscription, Lacerte cat, should be replaced by Lacerte cat. It's not so clear, but maybe Lacertum catuli. Anyway, la cat was never lacatum with the idea that it was spiced or colored with lacquer, which is only cited 2 or 3 times in very strange texts, has disappeared. And I think we have to accept the idea that the basic word for lacat is lacertus, and then to reflect upon cat.
Yeah, thank you for the philological remains. Yeah, we are going to reconduce this interpretation of lac. And about the Halten 17, I think we spoke a lot yesterday, and yeah, Mulsun is could also be an interpretation for the olive preserves in this amphora, yeah, for sure. I only put the Titulus Pictus from Mainz because I think it was an interpretation, and we can also compare with this kind of salted products. But nevertheless, for sure, I am agree with you about the Mulsun interpretation.
Yes, regarding this problem of using and reusing amphora for many times, and I think that there is a very fine line between rule and exceptions from the rule. You can look only today what Volkswagen has done. So sometimes people were forced to break the rule. And let's say, as in the Grado shipwreck case, they had a huge amount, they caught a huge amount of fish. They prepared and sold it, and what can they do? They didn't have special amphorae for salt fish, so they reused wine amphorae. In my opinion, an amphora is created for the very beginning with a precise goal, for a precise product. You cannot invest, so you need to make amphoras only when you have a huge amount of production of wine or fish ready to be exported. When your industry is already focused on a certain, on exporting a certain product. You cannot make some amphoras waiting that you'll have wine maybe, or you have fish, salted fish and so on. We have many examples of, let's say, from Egypt, from papyri. It's famous, those 2 papyri published by Cook, and we say that the lady was preparing those amphorae well before the harvest. And for the second contract, she hired a potter, and she ordered a reduced amount of amphorae, especially because she knew that the harvest will not be so plentiful like 2 years before. So they calculate, they are very good at calculation, so they don't, because making amphora is an investment of energy, of skill, of money. It's not just making for fun. So in the second case, when we have, let's say, a big production of fish, salt fish, or you can reuse. It is not a big problem, but the problem with an amphora is not so much to put it in an amphora, but the problem is to take it out of an amphora. So in exceptional cases, you can put fish, but why should you make such a complicated amphora like Dressel 1 with sharp anglers when you can make, if you really want, make a Dressel 21, 22 with very open mouth and easy to use. So this is a problem to have to take it into account.
Dario.
Personally, I want to say that my idea is the one that Professor Charnier and many other colleagues, as Stephanie Martin Kilcher and others, have expressed. All these strange cases are exceptions. As you have put a contemporary example, I will put another. When you see the TV and you see that somebody killed a child, we are always astonished for this. And maybe we think that in that country they are killing children daily, but they are not, you know. So these strange examples take our attention, but 95% of the others are not like this. This is personally how I understand this vinum titulus pictus from Jerez, and the other exceptions which happen. We know that they happen. If we don't understand that behind one amphora type there is a region and there is a product, we can't understand the so diversified typology that we have in the Mediterranean in imperial times. So this is what I think. And we are all used to try to change normally the right way.
But you have published Greco-Italic or Dresser 1 amphora from Baello with fish sauces. And we know some examples in Italian, in Spain too, of Dresser 1 and Greco-Italic associated with fish products. So for me, it's not so strange to think in a principal thing to export and a secondary product. The same types. It's not so.
I understand you, but for me, the exception in this case is that the imitations in Baetica or in Ulterior Baetica of Italic amphora were for fish, but for me it's an exception. If I find Dressel 1 imitated in other regions, I think in wine, and if they are not for second quality wines, you have to demonstrate that.
Yes. But it's an exception that is normal in a region. So.
If I can add something, I think we all agree on the fact that the shape was usually sufficient for the people to identify the content. If not, we would have more tituli picti explaining the content of each amphora. And the tituli picti sometimes, more often, explain the content when the content is not the content we would have expected, or when it is necessary to specify the content, a very complicated content like the fish products. But I think as we must admit some exception to this rule, to one type being representative of one content, I think perhaps we have to admit that we have some exception of the rule of an amphora being representative of one content. I mean, depending perhaps of the region and or the chronology. And perhaps this moment of transition between different civilizations could explain that the content are not completely well defined. Just an idea like this. Sorry, I just forget to give the word to the non-Spanish Iberian people.
The westernmost part of the Iberian Peninsula was sometimes forget. But I would like to say just some short and telegraphic appointments. First of all, congratulate my dear friends and colleagues for their presentation. It's a very good presentation. It's for a complex issue, and in time. I congratulate Horacio for that, for its German punctuality. There is also in the westernmost part of the Iberian Peninsula what was later the Lusitanian province, a tradition of pre-Roman amphora production. That means that in all the Iberian Peninsula there is a tradition that we may call Punic of producing amphorae. The concept of one shape, one content, it's a Greco-Roman concept. And so I would say that what I have called the Romanization of amphorae in the Iberian Peninsula was the assimilation of that concept, but we can have two different stages of assimilation. One was the assimilation of the shapes and the need or the strategic issue of copy the shapes from the Roman world. Another issue is to have the concept that one shape should correspond to one content. And so maybe in these earlier periods, they are making Roman type amphorae, but not with the concept that each amphorae should represent one content. Maybe this is the explanation. Another tradition, another handicraft tradition that has no direct relation with Greco or Roman tradition. That may explain why there are so many exceptions in the archaeological records. The other issue is related to the information that we have from the zooarchaeological investigation. We don't stress that here because what we have made chiefly in the Tejo area was the study of the zooarchaeological remains that are in the bottom of the cubes used to produce fish salt. It's not from the inside of amphorae, but in the production area itself. Well, the result for the later period, the later 4th and 5th century AD, it's sardines, 99% of sardines, and a product that was made with an entire sardines, something that we can relate it to those appointments in Geoponica on the production of a sauce made with the entire little fishes. It's not the content of amphorae, but for 99% of sardines inside the basins used to produce the fish sauce, I think that we can accept and admit that it was made with sardines. The other issue is the wine issue that we want to track by chemical analysis. The problem was to have the proper samples to do it, because there are samples that can give us good results and others that just give us some results that we don't need, that we don't know if they correspond to the main product. And the last appointment is the chronological issue. It's interesting to see that the production of fish salt products in the westernmost part of the Iberian Peninsula goes beyond the Roman Empire until the 6th century at least. And that is interesting also because it's something that we can analyze and discuss in a more historical, cultural context. And that's all.
Any comments on Carlos Fabiao's comments? Franca?
I don't know if I miss it, but I would like to know if you have some news about the contents of Oberaden
74.
74, sorry. And it's for me, a very interesting Amphora. So if you can say something more about contents and why they produce this kind so different from...
Yeah, well, this is, I think, in early Augustan times, in the Iberian Peninsula, but also in your area, in South France, we assist to the develop of a new family of amphora, this flat-bottom amphora, the Gauloise II, no, the Urqueus from the Guadalquivir, and also the Oberaden 74. And these three amphoras, they were produced near the last part of the rivers of the Ebro Valley in Oberaden 74, Urqueus, Guadalquivir, and Gauloise II is in Narbonensis, no, the Rhone Valley. Then I think it's not the content, but it's the transport of this amphora in river that appears like a flat bottom. Then about the content, we are not sure what they were, but probably wine. But we don't have any analysis, we don't have any tituli picti. We think the way of doing this amphora is more for the river transport and for a different kind of product. Maybe it's a different wine, but we cannot know it.
Excuse me. Just one question to Horacio. On your presentation, you make a distinction between the west and the east of Gibraltar about fish products. In west, you have tuna and sparidae, and east, you show only clupeidae. On which data do you found this knowledge?
I think probably
It's
Mr.
a
Bernal,
hypothesis, or?
Mr. Bernal is going to answer better than me this question. Yeah.
I can't answer properly to your question, but what I can say is that Arturo Morales and Eufrasia Rosselló's works have said that from a biological point of view, nowadays there is a different general composition between the Atlantic species and the ones in the Mediterranean. So that's not based in archaeological data, but in modern biological indicators.
No, for the moment we haven't got enough data to make the distinction. We have some idea, but we start to understand. The question is to make the about the fish count, the content of the amphora, to know if there is a specialization in the different parts of Mediterranean. So it's very interesting to know if we have a specialization in Portugal with Sardinia. Sardinia.
This is why your question is a very good one. We can say that for Antiquity. In modern times, biologists say that we know that migratory species are entering the Mediterranean, but in general terms, there are some different group of species. But for Antiquity, as I told this morning during my paper, I should never say something like that with the quality of the information we are using, because we don't have enough information. For instance, what Professor Fabiao has said about the sardines, I'm not really sure. Because what about how many vats or fish salting plants do you know in the Roman world with tuna? Or Amphora with tuna contents? Corinth and one or two in the Straits. And we know very well that tuna was the most important product in salted fish. And there is a methodological issue behind this. You will never put tuna bones inside the amphora, not even inside the vats. This is why when we dig the vats, or when you have tuna chunks amphora, you will find nearly nothing excepting the skins. And in that case, you have to do a detective work, which has not been done till recently. So there is a methodological problem behind all these questions.
Miriam wanted to add a word, and then Sally, and then Ray. Miriam, on the front. Oh.
Dario, you are what I said, Dario, is just because I think the fish bones we found in au fond des cuves are only the last product. We don't know if every time in the year or every time in the century they only works on this species. Perhaps there is a seasonality production, and perhaps we have often one vat with fish bones. So the other, we don't know what they do. Donc we can't say that because we found fishes of sardine in vats, this factories only works on sardines. Yes, but I am okay with you.
Thank you very much. Sally wanted to speak here.
Just one moment. Pardon. I don't say that the factories only work with sardines. I have said that in late 4th and 5th century, those factories, 3 different factories in the area of the Tejo River, only produce with sardines.
I just wanted to think about the relationship between the pottery designer and the pottery user. And has anybody thought a little about how they interacted? I think the pottery designer will always think about one product when he designs the vessel. But once it leaves the factory, it can be used for anything. But I think there is a relationship to be seen, maybe understood, between who makes them, who designs them, who commissions them, and who decides what they're used for. And there is I know we can't see it because the evidence isn't there, but it's something to get a little deeper in. I think the pottery designer is asked to design for one product, but once it leaves the factory, it's anybody's guess.
Do you have any comments? Thank you.
Well, I would say that there is no relation between them.
Thank you. Ray wanted to speak.
Since the main goal of this interactive congress is contents, I would like to say that Albert Rivera asked about the inland productions, and I believe they are very important. We have no time, I know, but they are very important. You can understand Roman economy and commerce if you don't know what happened inland. So, as Carlos Fabian said many years ago, he spoke about the importance of flat Roman amphora in the peninsula. And indeed, we already have some results on this different kind of flat Roman amphora. For example, the Urseus type that I told you before, or a new kind of amphora that we found at Leon, a Roman camp, and the results of chromatography was olive oil. And also about the flat Roman amphora from Lugo, with a different kind of content, molluscos and ostras. So the reality of Roman economy, I know that we tend to speak about the coast, the amphora that they were export, but we tend to forget many things. Like I told you yesterday about commonware, that they were used also as a content to transport, as we saw in Rodano, commonware from Baetica, with Titli Picti, very similar to the SL20. So I think we are here, we forgot many things that we should think about a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, that's right, but we will need more time for discussing all the topics. I don't know if you have any comments. If not, we have to move. André? You want to move? Maybe, André, you can be very brief.
There is another reason for not finding tannins in amphorae. It's Pliny's Melandria, where he says melandria are slices of tunny as hard as wood. And I think most of the tunny was exported as dried slices of tunny with the bones in the middle. And of course, that means we have always to think about the exports which are not in amphorae. Amphorae were not the only container of the food in the Roman world. And then I add something about Cordilla. Cordilla, we think it's young tunny just after one text, which is Martial's, addressing his own book and telling him, "Oh, dear book, I hope you will not be used to wrap Cordilla." And of course, you cannot wrap with a volume and big fish. So Cordilla, according to Martial, but not according to Pliny, is young tunny. And young tunny will be the only content, the only tunny content of amphoras.
Thank you. And of course, we would also speak about the terrestrial transport, which was probably not in amphorae more of the time. So I think we will move to the Gaulish amphorae. And if I must do the very boring words of the end for each session, for me, the most important things was the evidence of perhaps an experimentation phase of production with the Italian copies, the late Punic amphorae and the ovoid amphorae, which contents are very difficult to identify. And also, I think we have to stress on the linked products evidenced in Spain. I mean, oil and olives, meat and fish, and so also perhaps the mixed products inside some of the 711 Dressel amphorae. And at the end, the problem with the latest Spanish amphorae. We will see that tomorrow we have the same problem, in fact, in Africa, including the differences between the regions and also the problem with the transport and the storage amphorae, and also the problem of production of the coastline and production inside the country. Thank you very much. And now I call Fanette Lobenheimer, and he will be the speaker, and Patrick Monsieur, who will be the discussant about the Gallic amphorae.